So Jen has a freezer with a Stevesicle in it, and that night as she heads downstairs to grab Charlie some more water, she hears a noise from the garage and heads in to find Judy sitting there listening to whale sounds, trying to sleep next to the freezer. Judy just doesn't think it's right that Steve is in there all alone, but Jen says, you can't be sitting out here like this. What happens if the boys come out? What are you going to tell them? But Judy is buying into all these signs that she's seeing that are telling her that Steve shouldn't be in that freezer at all. And one of those signs is that the lights keep flickering on. And as the women are leaving, it happens, so Jen decides just to change the bulbs. She's not buying that it's some paranormal sign. But as they leave again, the light flickers again. And now they're both a little freaked out. They want to know what exactly is tripping the sensor. So they grab a broom and start banging on the freezer, and then all of a sudden, tons of rats scurry from under it. They call an exterminator, and he goes through the whole protocol of what he'll do to get rid of the rats. And then they ask, why were there so many of them? He says, well, they have trouble controlling their body temperature, so when they find a cool place, they hang out there. And if there's meat in that freezer, they can smell blood from like a mile away. Judy then asks if they can get into the freezer, says, oh yeah, they can chew into that freezer. And to Judy, this is a sign that they have to move Steve out of that freezer, but Jen doesn't want to do that. She wants to keep Steve in there for the next 7 years until the kids go off to college, so that if she does get caught, they'll be okay. But 7 years is a long time. And they need to figure out how to get rid of a body without going on Google and doing some research that the FBI can track. Jen suggests wheeling him out in a suitcase, but Judy doesn't want to put the man that she was going to marry in a suitcase. Judy suggests renting a boat and dumping him out in the ocean, but Jen doesn't like that idea at all and says, let's think back to the suitcase. And Judy goes, no, we can't do that. He was a person with a soul. And Jen reminds her that he might have been a person, but he was a terrible person. He left Ted to die. He left Judy after all the miscarriages. He was kind of a piece of shit. Why are you defending him? And Judy's defending him because she feels like it's her fault that Steve is dead. Because she brought Steve into Jen's life, and she never expected Steve to lash out and actually attack Jen. Although that never actually happened. Jen tries to make her feel better by telling her it's not your fault. Judy heads off to work and overhears Flo telling Melissa that she wants to leave and she hates it there at the nursing home. So Judy pops in trying to help the situation, telling her that she hosts an art class every Tuesday and Thursday, and maybe she would like that. But when Flo starts criticizing the art in her room, Judy takes the art out saying, yeah, no, this art sucks. You have a good eye. And as she's leaving, Melissa comes out and thanks her for trying to settle down the situation. Judy tells her that a lot of people hate it there at first, but then they end up growing and actually love it. She asks Melissa if there's anything she can get her to help with the situation, and after a few suggestions, she settles on weed. The two go out to smoke in Abe's car, and she tells Judy that she's moving her mom in there after a year of living with her. And it just didn't go right at all. And after her mom broke her hip, she just felt like she couldn't take care of her anymore, so she moved her in here, and she feels guilty about it. Ever since Michelle's dad died, Flo has just been miserable. It's as if she feels guilty about being happy. And Judy says, I get that, but Michelle says, I don't. Life goes on. We all die. The world keeps going and other people need you. And this is a breakthrough for Judy, who is now realizing that just because Steve is gone doesn't mean she has to be miserable. Jen, meanwhile, has had a really bad day at work. A couple they were selling a house to has tried to pull out of escrow, and she's getting shit from Lorna about it. She's also dealing with this Edgar Allan Poe Telltale Heart situation where she's hearing the humming of the freezer from the garage everywhere she goes as she's trying to get work done. So she types in how to get rid of, and then it auto puts in a dead body, and she frantically starts to delete it, but then Shandy, the little girl who found Ted's body, shows up out of nowhere saying, why are you trying to get rid of a dead body? Jen goes on to explain that she's not, it was just automatically put in there. And Shandy, being a little psychopath, says that she would take it to this local forest because that's where all the gangs drop their dead bodies, and apparently there's more dead bodies there than trees. Jen, being horrified, says, how do you even know that? She says, oh, the dark web. It's an absolutely great research tool. And then Jen wants to know why Shandy's even there, and she's having a play date with Henry. Later that day, she goes into the garage and opens up the freezer, and this is the first time she's looking at Steve's body in there. But as she's doing so, Henry and Shandy come in, and Jen frantically closes the freezer door and says, you guys got to get out of here. But the more they ask questions about what she's doing and this and that, it's stressing Jen out more and more and more until finally she freaks out and says, you guys got to get the fuck out of here. And it really scares Shandy and Henry. And immediately, Jen knows she messed up, and she starts apologizing and asking what they needed, but they just slowly back out of the garage. And when they do so, Jen has a breakdown about what she just did, yelling at her kid about something that really wasn't his fault. She's just so stressed out. She then goes to a department store and grabs a bunch of chemicals that will, quote, dissolve anything. She heads home and fills up her bathtub with it, but instead of dropping Steve's body into it, she drops a dead rat into it. And as she's seeing the rat dissolve, she's just overcome and leaves the bathroom. But when she does so, she runs into Judy, who wants to know what she's doing. And when Judy finds out, she freaks out and says, I need to see Steve right now, because she thinks that it's Steve's body in that bathtub, when in reality it's a rat. And even though Jen is trying to talk her down, she's still demanding to see Steve's body, but Jen says, you definitely do not want to see Steve right now. Judy tells her, look, I'll do anything you want, but I'm not doing that. And after seeing what happened to the rat, Jen doesn't want to do it either, but she doesn't really know what to do. She's not good at this whole pretending to be okay thing like Judy was. And Judy says, I wasn't okay with that. Just because I was living here, I was miserable. It got to the point where I had to tell you what happened. And guilt starts to get to Jen, and right as she's about to tell Judy exactly what happened that night, the entire town is hit with a rolling blackout. And you can't exactly have a decomposing body in a freezer that isn't on. So Jen says, you know what, I have an idea. And the two get in the car and head to that forest that Shandy mentioned. And as they're doing so, Judy says, wait, didn't you have something to tell me before the power went out? But instead of actually telling her the truth, Jen just says, oh, yeah, that's right. I forgive you. And they head on into the forest. Thanks so much for checking out this recap. If you don't see the next video there, don't worry. It'll be up in a day or two or as quickly as I can get to it. Please consider subscribing to this channel. It would really help me out. And then like the video if you liked it and hit thumbs down if you don't.